Cleopatra continues to be surrounded by many controversies about her and her life, despite her remarkable legacy as a ruler who was a woman. Recently, a Netflix documentary stirred controversies about her racial background once again after the show depicted Cleopatra as black. But aside from her skin color, Cleopatra was already considered to be a controversial woman at her time. Let's find out why. Hi, welcome to our channel. In this video, we're going to continue discussing the controversial women in history, and last on our list is Queen Cleopatra of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt. Cleopatra is considered controversial for many reasons, but apparently just because she was a woman. But Queen Cleopatra wasn't just any woman. Being a ruler, she proved herself to be a competitive political leader, while being a daring woman herself. Let's find out what Cleopatra was like as a woman. Before we begin, what controversies about Cleopatra have you learned about before? Tell us in the comments below. To start, let's get to properly know Cleopatra first. Cleopatra, specifically Cleopatra VII, was the final ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Macedonian Greek family that governed Egypt from the passing of Alexander the Great in 323 BC until Octavian, who later became Emperor Augustus, conquered and occupied the country in 30 BC. She was an Egyptian queen born around 70 or 69 BCE and passed away on August 30 BCE in Alexandria. She is renowned in both historical accounts and theatrical performances for her romantic involvement with Julius Caesar and her subsequent marriage to Mark Antony. In her 21-year rule, while neighboring states in the eastern Mediterranean succumbed to Rome's expanding influence, Cleopatra skillfully maintained Egypt's independence. Through her clever diplomacy, strategic acumen, and personal charm, she safeguarded her nation. Cleopatra's significance lies in her historical role, bridging the gap between the Hellenistic age of Alexander's successors and the subsequent Roman Empire. Her enduring legendary status adds to her historical importance since her passing. The majority of Egypt's many queens, although celebrated within their own country, remained obscure beyond its borders as the dynastic era concluded and hieroglyphic writing was forgotten. Their tales faded away, hidden beneath Egypt's sands. However, Cleopatra lived during a time of widespread literacy, and her actions shaped the formation of the Roman Empire, ensuring her story could not be erased. Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, was determined to document Roman history in a way that affirmed his right to rule. To accomplish this, he authored his autobiography and controlled Rome's official records. Since Cleopatra had played a pivotal role in his rise to power, her narrative was preserved as an essential part of his own. However, it was reduced to just two aspects: her relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Cleopatra's political significance was disregarded, and she was portrayed as a morally corrupt foreign woman who seduced honorable Roman men. Octavian found her a convenient adversary, allowing him to be remembered for fighting against outsiders rather than his fellow Romans. This official Roman depiction of Cleopatra as a predatory and immoral figure became ingrained in Western culture. Over the years, it was retold and reinterpreted until it transformed into a narrative of a wicked life, redeemed by an honorable death. Barbara Holland, an author who wrote about Cleopatra, puts it this way: "Until now, everyone has had pretty much the same fix on Cleopatra. Passion's plaything, sultry queen, a woman so beautiful she turned the very air around her sick with desire. A tragic figure whose bared bosom made a gasp when she died for love." Inevitably, the best-known incarnation of her is Hollywood's Theda Bara, Claudette Colbert, Elizabeth Taylor, telling us what fun it was to be filthy rich in the 1st century BC, spending days in enormous bathtubs and nights in scented sheets, drinking pearls dissolved in vinegar, lounging around on a barge, being weighted on hand and foot. Sometimes the asp looks like a small price to pay. But is Cleopatra really to be considered controversial mainly because of her beauty, romantic affiliation with men, and luxurious life? While most people would only point out her seductive gestures towards men for power, Many historians who studied the life of Cleopatra believe that her life is worth noting, not just because of her beauty. In deeper study of her life, it is revealed that Cleopatra displayed intelligence, cleverness, and strategic acumen in a world where male dominance prevailed. As a female ruler, she boldly asserted her authority, eliminating her two brothers, who posed threats to her goals. Both met unfortunate ends. Her calculated relationships with Caesar and later Antony were strategic moves aimed at safeguarding her position and her nation's independence. Through her diplomatic prowess, Egypt maintained its autonomy, while neighboring states succumbed to Rome's influence. Additionally, her adept leadership skills played a crucial role in preventing famine in Egypt, even as other regions in the eastern Mediterranean faced starvation. Furthermore, Cleopatra demonstrated her cultural versatility by actively engaging with various cultures. She supported ancient Egyptian civilization by establishing new temples and honoring traditional deities. Simultaneously, she upheld Egypt's prominence in the Greek-speaking Hellenistic world, showcasing her ability to navigate and harmonize across diverse cultural backgrounds. Have you learned anything new about Cleopatra so far? What do you think of her as a ruler? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Now that we understand why Cleopatra remains a remarkable figure until today, let's now figure out why she was a controversial woman during her time, even before she was over-sexualized in today's time. First on the list is her family's incestuous background. Similar to numerous prominent royal families, incestuous relationships were prevalent in Cleopatra's family. It is likely that her parents were at least half-siblings. Moreover, during her rule, she married not one, but two of her brothers. To be specific, when Cleopatra was 18, she was married to her brother and co-ruler, Ptolemy XIII Theos Philopator, who was only 10 years old at the time. Then, after assuming power, Ptolemy XIII became a threat to Cleopatra's life, so she went to Syria. Later, she raised an army and went back to Alexandria, engaging in a civil war against her brother for control of the throne. Around the same time, Julius Caesar had journeyed to Alexandria at the invitation of Ptolemy XIII. However, Cleopatra managed to secure Caesar's support, and together, their combined Roman-Egyptian forces toppled Ptolemy XIII. Following his defeat and eventual passing, Cleopatra married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV Philopator. At the time, Cleopatra was 22, and her brother was 12. Another controversial thing about Cleopatra is how she presented herself as the physical manifestation of the goddess Isis, using it as a publicity tactic to gain favor among the people. This was the way for many ancient Greek and Roman leaders to claim divine authority by aligning themselves with the gods. As for Cleopatra, she specifically connected herself to the influential Egyptian goddess Isis, known as the sister and wife of Osiris and the mother of Horus. Isis governs aspects like motherhood, the afterlife, and life cycles. Cleopatra reinforced this connection by portraying herself as Isis during ceremonial occasions and frequently seeking validation for her decisions through religious prophecies. Next on the list is her relations with the famous historical figures Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. While her intentions with them were initially of political nature, Cleopatra ended up having affairs with the two. Following her successful alliance with Caesar in 48 BCE, to overthrow her brother, the two engaged in a turbulent romantic relationship, deeply influenced by politics. Their connection proved advantageous for both, as they became potent political supporters for each other. Cleopatra is rumored to have had a child with Caesar, named Ptolemy XV, Caesar, or Caesarion. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Rome fell into chaos, with various factions vying for control. General Mark Antony was one of these contenders, and in 41 BCE, he sought Cleopatra's support. Their relationship swiftly turned romantic and political. They were known for their lavish lifestyle, indulging in extravagant gatherings and luxury items. They eventually wed and had 3 children together. However, their romantic and political partnership came to an end after the Battle of Actium, and their subsequent deaths. Speaking of Caesar, there was one event involving him and Cleopatra that certainly made the queen remarkable. While the common portrayals in art and literature suggest that she used her feminine allure to achieve her goals, people from her time period actually focused more on her commanding presence, charisma, and conversational skills than her physical beauty. An illustrative incident occurred during her initial encounter with Julius Caesar. Instead of following formal protocols that might have restricted her ability to charm him, Cleopatra had herself concealed inside a rolled-up carpet and carried by servants into his quarters. There, she emerged, wearing her finest attire, to meet him privately. While some speculated that Caesar might have been drawn to her youthful beauty, it is more likely that he was captivated by the audacity of her maneuver, recognizing her as a clever and influential potential ally. Lastly, while some modern historians depict Cleopatra as a competent and popular Egyptian leader, the world's perception of her is often shaped by Roman viewpoints. During her lifetime and the century following her death, Roman propaganda, primarily propagated by her adversary Octavian, portrayed Cleopatra as a dangerous seductress who used sex, magic, and cunning to seize power that was deemed inappropriate for a woman. In the late 1st century BC, poet Horace labeled her as a deranged queen, plotting to destroy the capital and overthrow the Roman Empire. Almost 100 years later, the Roman poet Lucan branded her as the disgrace of Egypt, the lustful fury destined to bring ruin to Rome. Throughout the ages, Cleopatra has been a symbol through which people have interpreted their own beliefs and biases, and this trend continues today. But during her time, Cleopatra captivated people's attention, mainly because of her position as a female leader in a predominantly male domain. The Romans viewed her as exotic, intriguing, and contentious. Despite all this, the world today recognizes her for her legacy as a remarkable leader. What are your final thoughts on Cleopatra? Do you think that she's a great woman and leader, regardless of the controversies surrounding her? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, click subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching.